They did what they do to the tune of 66-16 during the regular season. The Boston Celtics with the best record in the NBA during the season. Look at the starting lineups right now. We begin with the visitors from Boston. Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, the so-called Big Three. We talked about Rajon Rondo starting at the point, and the underappreciated Kendrick Perkins in the middle for the Boston Celtics. For the Atlanta Hawks, a very young team, including one of the best rookies in the NBA this year, Al Horford, Marvin Williams, Josh Smith up front, Joe Johnson, and Mike Bibby, who has really struggled in the first two games of this series, starting in the backcourt for the Hawks. Let's check in now with Rick Bucher. Rick?
Thanks, Dan. Doc Rivers is taking a don't ask, don't tell approach to Paul Pierce's sore back, the result of a collision with Josh Smith in the early minutes of Game 2. Now, despite a quiet 14 points and 4 rebounds, neither the trainer nor Pierce has come to Rivers and said that there is any issue. So he's taking the assumption that there's not a problem. That said, Pierce did in the pregame warm-up, got a full sweat going before he went back in the locker room, and just now in the layup line challenged Ray Allen to an impromptu dunk contest. Now, Dan, he didn't make the 360, but quite clearly he's not favoring it going into this game.
That's good news for the Boston Celtics. There is a great atmosphere here inside Phillips Arena tonight. A deafeningly loud drum line before the game. The lights were out. An inspirational video before the game about miracles and underdogs. That's the role the Hawks are in. They know it. Let's see how they respond here at home.
This has been the end of the floor. That's been a nightmare. They have yet to get to 40% shooting in either of the first two games.
Looking to get Joe Johnson more looks than he got in Game 2. Marvin Williams wide open, around and out, and the rebound to Perkins. The Hawks, a team, as you said off the top of the show, Doris, they want to run whenever they can. They struggle sometimes in the half court, and as Doc Rivers said, the Celtics just want to play their game, force the Hawks into a Boston Celtics style of game.
The Celtics, one of the better defensive teams in the league, first overall in field goal percentage defense. So if you can score early, it behooves the Hawks to do that.
An early foul on Al Horford. Our officials tonight, Bennett Salvatore, Tom Washington, and Violet Palmer, as you look at Doc Rivers, his fourth season as head coach of the Celtics, the biggest single-season turnaround in NBA history after Danny Ainge engineered the two trades, bringing in Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. At the line, Kendrick Perkins averaged about 7 points, 6 rebounds per game. As the starting center, the foul, as we mentioned, on Al Horford, who has been such an important player for the Atlanta Hawks this year. In effect, playing out of position. He's a power forward, Doris, having to play center and matching up against bigger guys like Perkins.
I think the biggest surprise of people in the Atlanta Hawks organization about Al Horford is never hit that rookie wall. You play about 35 games in college. He's coming off those back-to-back national championships, but his consistency in both his approach and his effectiveness.
Keep an eye on the Bibby-Rondo matchup tonight. The incredible quickness of Rondo as a defender and all the problems that he gave Bibby in the first two games. Horford a miss, and then a foul, I believe, on Garnett on the follow by Joe Johnson. Ray Allen called for the foul. Mike Woodson, the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks, his team has gone from 13 to 26 to 30 to 37 wins in his 4 years at the helm, although it should be noted his contract and the contract of the GM Billy Knight both up at the end of June, and they are not aware of their fate beyond this season. And now Kendrick Perkins might be a contact lens situation as he heads over to the bench to explain what's wrong to Doc Rivers. Or maybe just a little bit of blood, perhaps. Couldn't tell from the way that he was motioning. Let's take another look. We had 2 bloody noses, one of them a broken nose in the game last night between the Pistons and the 76ers.
Yeah, you have 2 big bodies. Horford going directly at him. It looks like he takes a shot just to the eye.
I think it was an inadvertent shot by Horford with his head as he spun around right to the nose of Kendrick Perkins, and you can see it is still bleeding, and he's going to have to come out of the game.
Now, there's one positive for Mike Woodson's team, and there weren't really. I mean, this is a bit of a stretch, but Mike Woodson talked before the game about their ability to get to the free throw line. And right off the top, sometimes his best offense is second chance opportunities, and that's exactly how they got to the free throw line on this trip. Mike
Woodson, who enjoyed an 11-year NBA career playing for 7 different teams, an assistant coach on the Pistons championship team a few years back. If you see that ring on his finger, that enormously large championship ring on his finger, that came from Detroit Detroit, and a two-time, going way back, a two-time All-American under Bob Knight at Indiana. Now they're cleaning up the blood on the floor right now. Leon Poe, second-year player out of Cal, in for Perkins.
He looks a little, his eyes look a little glazed over.
Yeah. Joe Johnson to the line for Atlanta. Their leading scorer on the season, almost 22 points per game. A guy who actually began his NBA career as a member of the Boston Celtics. 7 years ago, played his first 48 games in the league for Boston, went on to Phoenix. Now 3 years with Atlanta, a two-time All-Star.
His role drastically different. You're asked to do a lot of the scoring for Atlanta. Phoenix, there are a lot of talented players around him.
And Boston can't get the ball in, forced to use a timeout, and that's got a lively crowd on its feet to a certain extent here in Atlanta already. They like the energy that the young Hawks have come out with here in the early going. Game 3 with the Celtics leading the series 2 games to none. Back to Phillips Arena in Atlanta after this. Tied at 2 early, just over a minute in. Kendrick Perkins on the bench with a bloody nose. Leon Poe in for him. It'll be Boston ball in front of what appears to be a sellout here in Atlanta. There was some talk and some stories in the local paper that the game was not quite sold out, and we do see a lot of green jerseys, a lot of green T-shirts around the building, but it is definitely predominantly a pro-Atlanta crowd. Paul Pierce knocks it down.
Well, you wonder about the Hawks putting pressure on, maybe trying to get Boston to have less time to run their half-court offense, but obviously no panic there. They just run their set, get a nice look for Paul Pierce at the free throw line, which is exactly where Pierce likes to operate.
Joe Johnson bringing the ball up this trip. Mike Bibby playing off the ball a little bit here. And Marvin Williams is stripped by Pierce. Back come the Celtics. Ronda off to Garnett, and he lays it in with a finger roll.
How about that? You think Celtics fans appreciate now that Paul Pierce doesn't have to carry the load offensively, that he makes the defensive play that leads to an easy layup?
They all bought in defensively this year under the guidance of assistant coach Tom Thibodeau. Pierce, sensational in the words of Doc Rivers defensively this year, and Ray Allen even getting better and better over the course of the season. And there's Allen trying to knock it away. Shot clock at 5. The floater by Johnson is good.
No question. Back-to-back All-Star appearances for Johnson. He's got length and ability to score the basketball. Showed that early.
Well, we got some interesting matchups tonight. We talked about Ronda and Bibby, Ray Allen and Joe Johnson on one another. Josh Smith, the ultra-athletic young player, trying to guard Garnett, but on a switch, couldn't get out to Pierce in time.
He was working on that three-point shot in warm-ups and was absolutely not missing any.
Johnson misses the fadeaway. Garnett taps it off to Rondo. Rajon Rondo, just his second year in the NBA, out of Kentucky, and a guy, a lot of questions about him prior to the season. Could he handle the team? Here's the miss. Rondo has done a terrific job this year, better than expected. Offensively, that guy, a lot is expected of him. You talked about Josh Smith. He can do some things very few players in this league can do.
He's the most captivating player on this roster for me. I mean, just second in the NBA in blocks, doesn't even play the center position. That goes to Horford. Hyper athletic, unbelievable ups.
Way above the rim, and the crowd rising to the occasion themselves as well. The Hawks within 3. Garnett one-on-one with Smith, and he schools them.
Well, he really just changed the definition of players in this league. It's 6'11", wanting to play the face-up game. How about that? With that kind of handle at that size.
Good start from the floor for the Celtics, 4 of 5. Bibby is fouled by Leon Poe.
Well, Mike Bibby, it has been a struggle. This is the guy who has talked about making things happen for his team, gets his head up in transition, and that's your best opportunity. On the board in the locker room for the Hawks, it says 7 seconds. If you can score in the first 7 seconds against the Celtics, you're going to be a lot better off.
Like that young Philadelphia 76ers team we saw last night beating Detroit, the Hawks want to run, get up and down the floor, use their athleticism as much as possible. Marvin Williams from the corner. Everybody getting involved early for Atlanta. Boston leads by 3. Rondo using the screen, and if he can knock down that shot, he becomes a potent offensive force for the Celtics.
Spent his summer making at least 250 jump shots, understanding he would be the guy that the concession was made.
Great passing, great ball movement by the Hawks, and Smith with the finish again.
Well, they thought it would be huge for this team to get out to a very good start here at home. Young teams, they draw energy from the crowd. They feel better about themselves. The Hawks just look better than they did in the first 2 games.
Average age right around 24, 25 years of age for Atlanta. Very young team. Ronda with 5 on the shot clock. Just beyond the elbow, misses the shot. Kendrick Perkins, by the way, has come back to the scorer's table. Williams into traffic and draws the foul. It will be a shooting foul. Let's go down to Rick Bucher.
Kendrick Perkins never left the bench. They just worked on him. They were essentially just trying to stop the bleeding. He had to change out his uniform, and he has cotton swabs stuffed up both nostrils. So, Dan, he's going to be a mouth breather here for the next the next couple of minutes, and it'll be interesting to see just how that affects him being able to get up and down the floor.
Needs a little nucleus. Breathe through your eyelids if at all possible. But here comes Perkins back into the game. So he's going to tough it out as Leon Poe heads back to the bench. And he still looks just a little glassy, as you were saying earlier. But obviously, he convinced the trainers and the medical staff he's well enough to get back into the game.
Well, let's see how he reacts here in the first couple of minutes. I mean, this is a guy who on the defensive end is where his job is most important.
A couple of fairly easy wins, as we mentioned, in Boston. In the first 2 games of this series, Pierce is as open as you can be. Misses the 3. Boston winning by 23 and then 19. 2-on-1. Bibby to Smith.
Well, that's 6 points off dunks and their first lead. And doing it the way they need to do it. Just scoring in a hurry, using all their athleticism and speed to beat Boston up the floor.
3 very high percentage looks for Josh Smith. Paul Pierce with the answer to the other end. He's got 7.
That's why open floor turnovers are so dangerous. There's nobody back defensively.
Bibby with the pull-up jumper. They need him to get on track. Now Kendrick Perkins trying to beat the D down the floor. Horford runs him down. And Garnett is wrapped up by Joe Johnson.
Well, the Atlanta Hawks, not especially great when they have got to execute in a quarter-court situation, but in transition, they're not bad. Mishandled by Pierce. Get out, use that athleticism, and there's no question about the finish. It is fun to watch Josh Smith get off his feet.
Top of his head right at rim level on that slam. Garnett to the line for the Celtics. Nobody on this Boston team averaged 20 points per game during the season. Nobody on this Boston team has scored 20 in either of the first 2 games. They've had big leads, used their bench. And again, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, for 82 games, now 84 games, they've been happy to share the basketball.
Well, go back to what Larry Bird said after the acquisition of the great players, Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett. He talked about when they had the big 3, and the guy who had to make the concessions on those great Celtics teams, Robert Parrish. You know, a guy whose talent maybe dictated 20 shots a game. He didn't get close to that. Everybody has to be willing to sacrifice.
Josh Childress in off the Atlanta bench, one of the better bench players in the NBA. Terrific energy as he takes over for Marvin Williams. Smith leaves the runner short, gets it back, splits the D and lays it in and draws the foul.
That right there is Josh Smith's game. This is a guy who doesn't have a consistent perimeter shot. So when he's facing up and shooting 15, 16-foot jump shots, the opponent is happy. But when he does this, goes off the bounce and uses that athleticism, his ability to get off the feet, and all that size to get close and finish close, forget about it. Turn the lights out. Look at, there's 3 green jerseys. He's just the most athletic guy amongst them.
You were bang on in your assessment of who has to play well for Atlanta to have a chance. Talking about Smith off the top of the show. Atlanta, born and raised, came into the NBA right out of the high school ranks, 4th year, just 22 years old.
Terrific handle of the trap by Ronda. Doesn't force anything, just keeps his dribble alive.
Got a mismatch now, and the Celtics try to exploit it. Now Horford switches on to Garnett. Perkins gets in close and looking okay back into the game after that bloody nose earlier.
I like his intensity. Kendrick Perkins plays hard.
Again, Bibby playing off the ball in the half court a little bit more than he normally does as Ray Allen comes up with a steal. Hesitation to get by Bibby. Rondo probing, can't turn the corner on Smith. 4 to shoot.
He doesn't recognize it.
And we have a stoppage, maybe a clock issue. We will sort it out for you when we come back. We got a close game in Atlanta as we go to a timeout. Doc Rivers still looking for an explanation. It appears to revolve around the shot clock, which we mentioned was down to 4. Now they have reset it to 12, and it appears maybe it never went back to 24 and counted down after the last shot. We're not quite sure, but it appeared to be frozen at 4. And they're trying to sort it out. It looks like they're going to put it back to 12 and give the ball back to the Celtics.
Oh, Ronda didn't appear to have any concept, but there was 4 seconds, obviously, because there should have been more than that, so he'll get the full 12. I talked about Atlanta, Dan, wanting to shoot in the first 7 seconds if possible. They have taken 6 of their first 11 in that number. And 5 of their 6 made baskets have come at the rim. So very good start for them in terms of what Mike Woodson's philosophy was going to be coming in here.
All right, ready to get back to the game as Paul Pierce will inbound it for the Celtics with 12 on the shot clock. Allen. Using the screen, misses the 3. Rebound Bibby as Childress got decked on that screen.
Yeah, double screen that was beautifully executed. You do not see Ray Allen miss many of those kinds of shots.
Looking for Horford in the post. One-on-one with Perkins. Pierce got his hands in there. Johnson for 3.
He was just 2 of 8 from deep coming into this game in the first 2.
7 points already. Pierce off to Garnett. He'll take the 18-footer and bury it to tie the game.
Uncontested shots. Now, Doc Rivers, if he had one complaint about his team in the first 2 jump shot happy, but that's just too good a look to pass up.
Johnson trying to create a little space with Pierce. Josh Smith for 3. Just a 25% shooter from beyond the arc during the regular season. Smith is on fire with 11 early points.
Yeah, Celtics very rarely give up uncontested shots, but I think they want to see him make a couple first.
That lob hit the front of the rim as the Celtics turn it over. That's a tough catch by Childress. He's going to the rim.
Good energy, good attack mindset. Everybody looking to get right to the rack.
The Atlanta bench on its feet. Many of the Atlanta fans on their feet. The Hawks down 2-0 in the series against the #1 seed, leading here tonight in the first quarter. Pierce misses one from in close.
Now, what does Doc Rivers do? James Posey, who you know is a terrific defender, is at the scorer's table. He does not like what's happening on that end of the floor, so Posey will check in.
Bibby, the kick to Johnson. And it rattles out. A steal by Smith. Atlanta playing so much better so far tonight than they did in the first 2 games up in Boston. They're on a 17-7 run right now. Nice pass. And Perkins comes up with a clean block on Horford. Not a popular call here in Atlanta as Bibby trips Rondo. Bibby screaming at the official about the non-call at the other end. Rondo back to his feet. The intensity very high, very early tonight here in Atlanta. Also getting very high up off the ground, Josh Smith on a number of occasions having a big night Atlanta with an early 5-point lead.
Carolina blue runs deeper than most people are aware of.
You got that right. Paul Pierce working hard, but getting nowhere against the good defense of Joe Johnson. Shot clock is at 6. Oh, and Garnett with a hard screen right into the chops of Josh Smith. Garnett called for the foul.
That foul is offensive.
Well, we had a double screen that freed Ray Allen for a jump shot, and here he's just trying to get Paul Pierce off.
Foul against Garnett. Atlanta on a 17-7 run with the ball in a 5-point lead. Make it 7. The rookie from Florida, Al Horford.
What do you notice about Atlanta that's different tonight than the first 2 games? In the half court, when they are forced to execute, there's been better screening action, better movement of both the player and the basketball.
Garnett one-on-one with Smith. Smith got a piece, perhaps, number 2 in the NBA in blocks during the season, behind only Marcus Camby.
Youngest guy to 300 blocks already, Josh Smith.
Horford again, a beautiful no-look pass from Bibby.
Yeah, let's give Mike Bibby some credit because he acknowledged the fact that he did not do anything to help put his team in position to score. Well, tonight he has done exactly that.
It is a 9-0 run for the Atlanta Hawks as Childress is called for the foul. Now, if you're a fan of the Hawks, you've got to love what you've seen from this young athletic team so far here tonight.
Well, Al Horford has been as consistent a rookie as there has been, and this is why people are excited about their front court. The young man gets off his feet, and Mike Bibby has done just a tremendous job setting those young players and getting them easy opportunities.
The city of Atlanta hosting an NBA playoff game for the first time in 9 years. The Hawks snapping the longest drought in the NBA by making the postseason this year. And looky here, get a 9-point lead on the Celtics late in the first. Franchise history, they started off as the Tri-Cities Blackhawks up in Wisconsin in the late 40s, on to Milwaukee, won an NBA championship in St. Louis, and have been here in Atlanta since 1968. A number of different logos, some very good teams, including a team on which Doc Rivers played, along with Dominique Wilkins. Back in the 1980s, Hall of Famer Bob Pettit, Pete Maravich. And there's the NBA championship 50th anniversary. The St. Louis Hawks defeating the Boston Celtics back in 1958. Dominique Wilkins, now an executive with the Hawks organization. Remember the series 20 years ago, that epic series, Eastern Conference semifinal between the Hawks and the Celtics, when Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins put on an incredible show at Game 7.
Yeah, Doc, or the human highlight film, Dominique Wilkins, 47 in that one.
How about Sam Cassell into the game, off the bench, shot clock running down, knocks it down. He has been instant offense off the bench in the first 2 games of this series.
Yeah, 1 second he understood he had to get it off. 10 points in each of the first 2 games. Second half of game 2, a little bit overzealous with his shot selection.
Doc Rivers turned it. He went to the dark side.
Yeah.
He crossed over to the dark side offensively. Zaza Pachulia is in off the Atlanta bench, which is not that long. They won't use that many guys off the bench. The foul on Cassell.
I'll tell you this. Doc Rivers described that game you were talking about as pain. Well, he's going to describe the first period of this game as pain because right now the Atlanta Hawks shooting 61%. And I'm not sure how many dunks, but at least 4 by my count.
Against the team that led the NBA in opponent's field goal percentage during the season. At the line is Zaza Pachulia, 5th year in the NBA from the Republic of Georgia. His minutes down this year with the arrival of Al Horford. Averaged about 5 points, 4 rebounds per game. Must be the friendliest guy in the league. Said hello to everybody as he came out on the floor. Seems to know everybody in the building. Posey in off the Boston bench. P.J. Brown is in for the Celtics.
And now they come with some pressure again, and this is just going to force the Celtics to have a little bit less on the shot clock to get into their sets.
A spirited first quarter for the Atlanta Hawks and a 9-point lead on the Celtics here in Game 3. Pierce driving on Johnson. And we've got a push going against Johnson. Pierce just so strong, lowers that shoulder, and he's going to get where he wants to go.
Yeah, just straight isolation. This is a guy who likes to catch it right at the elbows. Free throw line extended. The defense forces him away, but he's so quick with that first step.
That's number 2 on Johnson. Sends him to the bench. 15 foul. Marvin Williams will return. On the NBA calendar tomorrow, a doubleheader on ABC. Game 4 between Cleveland and Washington. The Suns try to stay alive as they take on the Spurs. TNT with a doubleheader tomorrow evening. Detroit at Philadelphia. The Sixers up 2-1. The Hornets and the Mavericks in a Game 4 as well. And a Monday on NBA TV, the Orlando Magic will try to advance by knocking out the Toronto Raptors.
Some feel a little bit foolish that I said Philadelphia had no shot against Detroit. They're just flat out outworking the Pistons. If you're Pistons, you got to start showing some pride.
Samuel Dalembert, Reggie Evans, just unbelievable energy and hustle from the 76ers last night. 7-point lead Atlanta. Smith with a big first quarter for the Hawks. Leaves it short. Rebound Brown. The veteran pickups late in the season of Sam Cassell and P.J. Brown. And Pierce again just steamrolling into the defender. This time it's Marvin Williams.
Well, that's two moves that tells you he's okay. There's that quick first step, and then this, the crossover to get by. He takes some contact.
That's a smart play by Pierce. Williams is clearly moving, and Pierce seeking out the contact and getting back to the free throw line. Pierce with 9 points already. You look at the scoring averages of the big three of Pierce and Garnett and Allen this season. They're all down from a year ago, but it's not because they have struggled. It's because they're all taking fewer shots than they did a year ago when they were all the man on their own teams. But now together they have all, as we mentioned, shared the ball, and it appears all season long, Doris, happily accepted fewer shots in exchange for 42 more wins.
Paul Pierce has said and admitted that if he were younger, he might have had a problem with this, but it's to a point where all three guys' individual glory does not motivate them anymore. It's about championship because that's your legacy.
But Julia misses the shot. Perkins might have gotten a finger on that. Offensive rebound, Williams. Smith, the kick. Williams, the pull-up. And another offensive rebound. Smith driving on Brown. And draws the foul.
Tell you what they're reminding me of. Watching the Pistons in Philadelphia. It's that ability to attack, get multiple shot opportunities, use your strength, your athleticism.
Leon Poe getting set to come back in for Boston. Josh Smith, as athletic as any player in the NBA, still learning about the game, still learning about what he can do to take his game to the next level. But even though he might not quite have figured it out yet, this is a guy, he had a 38-point game this year, Doris.
Yeah.
He had a 22-rebound game. He had a 10-assist game, not all the same game. He had a 9-block game. I mean, when he is on, he can do things that, as you said, other people can't do.
I don't think Kobe or LeBron could have had all those things in one game. Yeah, no, you're right. 6'9", 235. You need a very long measuring stick to measure his ups. If he ever gets a consistent perimeter jump shot, forget about it. Unguardable.
13 for Smith. Atlanta by 6. Last minute of the first quarter. AC Law in at the point for Atlanta. Rookie out of Texas A&M. Here's a big first quarter for Boston. Pull-up jumper over Williams, not there. And Atlanta can hold for the final shot.
This quarter has gone about as well as you could have hoped if you were Mike Woodson. He had hoped that this team, as young as they've been, 25 wins here at home during the regular season.
Childress has it knocked away from behind by Cassell. Atlanta ball, 4.2 seconds. And a 20-second timeout for Mike Woodson and the Hawks. We'll step aside for a moment. Got a good one in the early going here in Atlanta. The glass, rising above the rim, getting out in transition, and easily playing their best basketball so far in this series. Doc Rivers, you can see the look on his face. He's been around the block a few times. He understands playoff basketball. He understands it on the road. A little bit worried, and told us that his team, even though they're up 2-0, he didn't think they had played that well in the first two games, and he was a little bit worried coming into game 3.
Particularly offensive end, I feel very good about what they accomplished.
Smith for 3. And the first quarter comes to a close with Atlanta leading Boston 32-26, thanks to the high-flying antics of Josh Smith. 13 points in the first quarter, including 3 dunks. It's a noisy building here inside Phillips Arena. Josh Smith has given them the biggest reason to make noise here tonight. He's got 13, Atlanta by 6. An interview with Boston coach Doc Rivers when we come back.
Welcome back, Coach. Their offense was incredibly effective. Why?
Well, they beat us down the floor and offensive rebounds. You know, it's the two things I thought we've done well so far in the first 2 games. We were awful in the first quarter. We want to make them play against our half-court defense. They haven't done that. They haven't had to.
And what's the essence of making that happen now?
Well, we just got to rebound better, number 1. Number 2, everyone has to get back, control the dribble, and then we can get our set defense going.
Good luck. Thanks.
Well, Doc's bang on. If you look at the stats, let's take a look, Doris, at what Doc Rivers is talking about.
Well, young legs are fast legs, and that usually means you can get out and run and use all that athleticism to your advantage.
As There's the offensive rebounding you can see, and Atlanta's turned 4 offensive rebounds into 8 second-chance points. Sam Cassell inside, and Posey looking for the foul, doesn't get the call. It's Law, Childress, Horford, Williams, and Pachulia for Atlanta. Brown, Poe, Ray Allen, Sam Cassell, and Tony Allen. For Boston, long shot, Pachulia over the offensive rebound. Number 5 for the Atlanta Hawks already.
And they scored off every single one they've had to this point. Can they do it again here?
Beg your pardon, Posey is in the game right now for Boston as P.J. Brown reaches in, and that's not a foul. Doc Rivers is going to like, about 35 feet away from the basket. And P.J. Brown, he's telling himself, I've been around, I know better than that.
Well, that's the other criticism Doc had. Putting them into the bonus early, you're giving your opponent free opportunities. So a look of concern. I would be concerned as well. They have not put together any solid stretches of basketball yet.
Boston defeated Atlanta all 3 times during the regular season, always by at least 10 points, and to beat them easily in the first 2 games up in Boston here in the playoffs. A.C. Law battered by injuries in his rookie season, cost him over 20 games. Williams misses the jumper. Brown the rebound for the Celtics. Ray Allen pushing. And the pull-up from 12 drops in. What a soft touch as he's fading to the left on that jumper.
He's meticulous in his preparation. I think most fans, you associate him with his ability to knock down 3-point shots. He's second all time to Reggie Miller, but he does have that ability to balance that with an ability to go off the dribble.
And like the other 2 members of the so-called Big Three, he's been to a conference final, but never beyond that. Josh Childress gets all the way and lays it in. The player out of Stanford, news today that Johnny Dawkins has taken over as the head coach out at Stanford. So congratulations to Johnny, the longtime assistant at Duke.
That is a big, big position to fill now on Mike Krzyzewski's staff.
Posey misses the 3. Allen with the offensive rebound. And we got a loose ball foul underneath. Going to go against Atlanta.
Not surprising that Johnny Dawkins would take a job having played and coached at Duke at another fine academic institution.
Poe out. Glenn Davis, Big Baby, into the game now for the Celtics. Visit NBA.com, or you can get ready for the 2000 playoffs now at NBAstore.com. There you can find the best selection of team jerseys, hats, T-shirts, and more. NBAstore.com. Every team, one store. Posey gets knocked down, and another Atlanta foul.
That typifies James Posey. He's setting a terrific screen on Josh Childress to get Ray Allen a shot. Those are the kinds of things you expect from James Posey.
A guy with an NBA championship with Miami, Sam Cassell, with a couple with Houston. Those are the guys with championship rings for the Boston Celtics. The Atlanta Hawks, meanwhile, came into this playoff series with only 2 players who had ever even played in the postseason. I mean, just a huge discrepancy in experience.
And I think if you're going for a championship, obviously you think about veterans. And I know Danny Ainge gets a ton of credit, and rightly so, for the acquisitions of Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. But I don't think you can overestimate the value of a Cassell or a James Posey as well. And Jock said early in the year, he said, I didn't know much about James, or what a powerful and terrific person to have in the locker room.
Posey double team, gives it up to P.J. Brown. Follows his own miss. Rebound Atlanta. Marvin Williams a little bit out of control. Finds Childress for the layup. And a foul.
Their mindset is to score in the first 7 seconds. You do not want to have to execute in a quarter court against the best defensive team in the NBA and the Boston Celtics. So another transition opportunity. Exactly what Doc told Rick Bucher. They're beating us up the floor. And when you get people out of position in transition, that is where fouls are most likely to occur. 10 in transition, 20 points in the paint.
Atlanta Hawks pluses are really coming to the forefront here tonight. We didn't see that much of it in the first 2 games as the Celtics forced them into a half-court game. But this is the style the Hawks want to play. Childress misses the free throw. Garnett back in for Boston. Allen is out there as well. Pierce is on the bench. Garnett one-on-one with Pachulia. Turnaround jumpers too strong. Horford with a rebound, and the 6'10 rookie leading Atlanta up the floor before passing it off. Celtics have yet to make a shot here in the second quarter, missing their first 5 attempts. Zaza Pachulia, strong on the baseline jumper, and back comes Sam Cassell. Ray Allen baseline for the layup. Too easy.
Sweet looking move. The Hawks are not known as one of the better defensive teams. They're getting some energy from the things they're accomplishing on the offensive end. When they don't get scores, they're not as good defensively.
And a timeout taken by Atlanta. The Hawks down 2-0 in the series, but up 6 on Boston early in the second.
ESPN's presentation of the NBA playoffs. Brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
Back in Atlanta, Game 3, where the Hawks lead the Celtics by 6, 36-30, 8:43 to go in the second. First-round coverage of the NBA playoffs continues on ABC tomorrow. Coverage begins with the GMC NBA Countdown at 12:30. Then it's the Cavs and the Wizards, Game 4 of that series, with Cleveland leading 2-1. San Antonio will try to eliminate Phoenix up 3-0. That game starts at 3:30 Eastern tomorrow. ABC Sunday, your NBA destination. Your thoughts on the 3-0 lead for the Spurs on the Suns?
41 points, 12 assists for Tony Parker. And I don't know who paid for Chip England, that shooting coach, whether it was the Spurs themselves or Tony Parker. But whoever paid for it was money well spent.
Travel on Zaza Pachulia with a double overtime game at a Game 1. The win for San Antonio. Then they win by 6. And the easiest win they've had so far was on the road in a Game 3. And as you mentioned, Parker was just, beyond description in Game 3 how good he was.
Well, the game plan essentially his entire career has been to go under screens in a pick and roll because you can give him enough of a cushion to still contest a shot. That ain't working.
Posey fouled inside. It'll be on Horford, his second.
Now Horford, his second. Team third.
So here's Posey to the line for Boston. 9th year out of Xavier, as mentioned, won an NBA championship a couple of years ago with Miami, with him and Cassell giving the Celtics some championship experience. The big three, meanwhile, as we mentioned, they've all gone to a conference final. None has ever won a title or been to the NBA finals, and they are 3 of the 5 highest scoring players active in the league right now who have not won an NBA championship.
Well, interestingly, Dan, right after the press conference when Kevin Garnett arrived in Boston, they met in Doc Rivers' office. And the first guy, Doc Rivers thought, I'm going to be the first guy to mention defense. It was Kevin Garnett. He said, guys, the only way we're going to win anything is if we guard. And I'll tell you who they looked at, the San Antonio Spurs.
That's right.
Consistently excellent on the defensive side of the floor. That is triggered by a first ballot Hall of Famer in Greg Popovich.
Glenn Davis working hard, coming up with the offensive rebound. There's Tom Thibodeau, a coach renowned for his work defensively. A foul on Josh Smith. Mike Bibby is back in for Atlanta. Bibby, who had only 2 assists total in the first 2 games, has 5 already tonight. Tough turnaround by Garnett. Rebound Smith. Josh Smith having a monster night so far.
The 3 guys who have been the most effective are their 3 runners. Josh Smith, Josh Childress, and Marvin Williams.
Johnson misses the long jumper. Again, when they get into the half-court game, sometimes the ball doesn't move that much and they settle for a long J. Sam Cassell around and out. Glenn Davis another rebound and give him an assist on the bucket by Garnett.
So as well as they've played, and things have gone about as well as you could have played for Atlanta, they are only up 3.
Johnson trying to use the screen, and we've got a foul on the Celtics. It will be Posey, I believe, or is it Davis? It's Glenn Davis, actually.
Glenn Davis, offensive rebounder, has had some very good moments in his first season. Boards it and then wisely kicks it to an uncontested 6'11 guy who knows how to finish shots.
There have been times where Big Baby, as he's known, has come in and played 15 or 20 minutes a game, and there have been times when he's hardly played at all. The one consistent thing is when he's in the game, guys on the other team tend to wind up on the deck, it seems. He's a big, strong, physical guy.
There's some physical play out there. He's trying to fight to get around the screen. And I'll tell you, the guy who's tutored him most on the defensive end, if you watch a Celtics practice, the guy who's always in Glenn Davis's ear, Kevin Garnett.
Second foul on Davis, fourth team foul. Smith almost turned it over in the paint. Bibby. Johnson wide open for three.
6 assists for Mike Bibby, who had struggled so mightily. He's dealing with a little ankle injury, of course the thumb injury that kept him out of the games early in the year. I don't know that Mike Bibby is 100%.
Atlanta's offense went up 9 points per game after the acquisition of Bibby. The problem is they allowed 9 points more per game after the trade as well. Garnett will not get the bounce, and Atlanta's got it. Smith in transition. Johnson another three. All of a sudden the lead is up to 9 after back-to-back threes by Joe Johnson.
Lots of energy, lots of athleticism, better body language. I like their mindset, Atlanta.
You can see Mike Bibby's got a look in his eye, too. He is having fun out there tonight. Garnett with a long jumper to try and quiet the crowd. And Garnett, his usual bundle of intensity as he makes his way back down the floor on D. He is not in a good mood with the way this game is going so far. 11 for Garnett. And Cassell reaches in and fouls Bibby.
Atlanta's transition game has been the story of this first half. In both the first and second quarter, their athletes are getting out and running. They're beating the veterans from Boston up the floor. Transition opportunities. If you don't want to go against the best defensive team in the league in terms of field goal percentage, Boston, get out and run. And the all-star, Joe Johnson, who's had so much of the load on his shoulders, the react, oh yeah, they feel very good. Kevin Garnett will not go quietly, and the guy may be the most telegenic player in the NBA. Just oozes intensity.
Back here in Atlanta where the Hawks have a 7-point lead in the Boston Celtics, trying to get on the board in this series. The Celtics leading 2-0. Josh Smith with 13 points already, 3 dunks. Mike Bibby's got 6 assists. The Hawks as a team have 14 assists on 15 made field goals. That's impressive stuff.
We talked about them moving the basketball better and moving themselves better, and they've been very good. They've beaten Boston in transition. They've also beaten them off the dribble to get shots, and this is a guy who's done a terrific job. 6 assists after a combined 2 in the first 2 games.
Misses both free throws. The Hawks were 22 and 28 when Bibby was acquired, went 15 and 17 after the deal, including at one point an 11 and 4 stretch that moved them from 10th in the East up into playoff position. Technical foul, I believe, on Glenn Davis, if I'm not mistaken. Marvin Williams knocks it down. It looked like Bennett Salvatore was signaling that it was on Davis. A team technical now, we're being told. For defensive 3 seconds, excuse me. It looked like he went 1 and 1, and Davis's number is 11. Davis had a look on his face like, what did I do? And we bought it as well. Defensive 3 seconds technical, and now Glenn Davis will get involved in another play. Again, bodies go flying.
And again, the fouls mounting for the Boston Celtics. The complaint of Doc Rivers, and he talks about this series with Atlanta. Yes, Boston is overmatching them in terms of their physical ability. But all of the little things you do, the habits you form now, will play throughout the course of the playoffs. That's why their defensive effort has got to be upsetting, and their fouling has got to be upsetting to him.
Bibby, 78% from the line during the season, has missed 3 in a row.
Looks more like his old self, though. That ability to split the trap. I mean, how many times you see that in Sacramento where the screen and roll, they try to trap the ball, and he goes right through it.
He was all smiles today before the game, and at shoot-around this morning, his son was on the court playing basketball for a long time. He's the brother-in-law of the Celtics, Eddie House, and Eddie House's son was out there, too, except both of them were wearing Bibby jerseys. These two kids were cousins playing a pretty spirited game, a one-on-one. Ray Allen knocks down the three.
You just want to stay attached if you're Boston, obviously, because this is an Atlanta team that has played as well as it can play. Can they sustain the intensity? Can they keep scoring in transition? For Boston, you know that's going to be the topic of discussion in the locker room.
Rondo, already viewed as one of the best defensive point guards in the NBA, just his second season, trying to get up, pressure Bibby. Shot clock down to 7. Now down to 3. Smith. And it must have grazed the rim, or did it? We're going to have an argument here. The Celtics are saying that ball did not touch the rim. Bennett Salvatore and Violet Palmer are talking it over.
Oh, Johnson!
And I think the ruling is that it did graze the rim, and I think that's going to be the right call. So we get a look at the replay, and it should still be Atlanta ball with a fresh 24 on the clock, as now they knock it down to 22.
So another second chance opportunity here. We get the benefit of a second look and the slowdown, and they absolutely see the trajectory the ball changes, so it obviously hit the rim.
Johnson as two Celtics collide. Glenn Davis even knocking down his own teammates as Ray Allen went flying, but the Celtics come up with the ball. Allen at the other end tried to scoop it up and under. Josh Smith was in his way. Smith on Garnett, and it's going to be a jump ball as Garnett got his hand in there.
Two really good plays on the defensive end. Both teams trying to get early opportunities, both stifled by good defensive efforts. Doc wanting the foul, however, on Ray Allen's move to the basket.
On the back, he says he got him. Kevin Garnett, of course, named just a few days ago the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year, the first time that he has won that award. That's a man's jump ball right there between Kevin Garnett and Josh Smith.
That is big time. Kevin Garnett was a point of pride. He was not going to let the young fella beat him in the jump.
Atlanta has led since midway through the first quarter, up 6 right now. Garnett driving on Pachulia, and he draws the foul. Now he's fired up. He's into this one, isn't he?
It seems like he's a rare combination. The superstar player who is also the consummate team guy.
He expends as much energy getting into his teammates' grill and pounding them in the chest and patting them on the back and urging them on. He doesn't need to fire up himself. He spends a lot of time firing up his teammates. And these Celtics, we talk about the Pistons and how they played last night and how they tend to peak and valley and give some games away. I don't think you can make that claim about the Boston Celtics at any point this year.
This guy wouldn't allow it. I mean, he holds you accountable individually and collectively for what they do on the defensive end of the floor. He was the first one to talk about it after the acquisition of he and Ray Allen. And look at how it has translated. His attention to detail. The two guys on the Celtics who are most likely to watch tape on their opponent, Rajon Rondo, 2 hours every single time, and Kevin Garnett. They both know the opponent's play call as soon as they go in to scout.
The free throws make it a 4-point game. Just over 4 minutes to go in the first half in front of a capacity crowd here at Phillips Arena in Atlanta. Johnson one-on-one with Allen. Fadeaway jumper. Tough shot by Joe Johnson. And the rebound to Big Baby, who has certainly made an impact on this game in his brief minutes on the floor.
So in Boston, in the last couple of minutes, has forced his team to execute. It's been challenged jump shots.
Allen is fouled. Again, it will be Pachulia. Number 3 on Zaza Pachulia. And going to the line, one of the NBA's great free throw shooters in the history of the league, one of the great shooters, period, in the history of the league, Ray Allen. The first round of the NBA playoffs continues tonight here on ESPN as the Rockets take on the Jazz in Game 4 of their series. Utah leading 2-1. All 3 games have been won by the road team. So tune in for that, 10:30 Eastern tonight here on ESPN.
It was shocking that Houston could go into Utah, who had the best home record in the regular season, 37-4. Go in and get Game 3. Tracy McGrady, who hadn't scored in either fourth quarter of either of the first 2 games. explodes in that one, and nice to see for a guy who's taken so much criticism for being 0-6 in the first round of the playoffs.
Boston on a 7-0 run, Doris. They are back within 2. Smith measuring Garnett, knocks down the jumper over him.
You can see that. That is a contested jump shot with Kevin Garnett about as close into Josh Smith as he can be.
A game-high 15 for Josh Smith.
Those are the kinds of shots that will not beat the Celtics right there.
Garnett, and he's got an answer at the other end. 15 for Garnett. Atlanta by 2, 3 minutes to go in the half. Good show there by Davis. Looking inside for Horford, and Davis did not recover quickly enough and is forced to commit another foul. Atlanta by 2 when we come back to Phillips Arena. Time now for tonight's Cooler Talk, presented by Gatorade, and we go back 20 years to the old Boston Garden. Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, Danny Ainge, Robert Parrish, Doc Rivers, Dominique Wilkins, and one heck of a playoff series. Atlanta could not win Game 6 at home, lost by 2. And then in an epic Game 7, Larry Bird with 20 of his 34 in the fourth quarter. Dominique Wilkins scored 47 for Atlanta, but it was not enough as the Celtics win Game 7 in Boston and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Doc Rivers, 16 points, 18 assists, but still burning over losing that game.
Oh, pain. You know, I don't know. I've never watched it. Never will. Just lost opportunity. It was a great series for everybody, but the players on the Hawks. And I was one of those. You know, Game 6 is the game I remember here. That was our game, and we didn't get the job done. But we did believe. We really believed we were going to win Game 7.
Two great teams. The Celtics had just a little too much Larry Bird for the Atlanta Hawks. Dominique Wilkins again had a phenomenal night. Dominique in the building here tonight. But even 20 years later, Doc Rivers says, you know what, I still feel pain over losing that Game 7 to the Celtics all those years ago.
He's done a terrific job of managing this team, because I think he understands from a player's perspective there's nothing to be taken for granted. And he's preached to this team over and over. 66 wins. Doesn't matter. What if we won?
Terrific defense there by Joe Johnson on Garnett. Shot clock down to 5. Rondo. It's a long 2 for Rajon Rondo, who most Boston games that we do, Doris, he's the first player out on the floor, and he's working on his jump shot. Marvin Williams, a strong move to the bucket and draws the foul.
Yeah, Rajon Rondo has pretty much adopted the Ray Allen philosophy. Arrive in the building 3 hours before tip. The guy who dedicated himself, worked with his college teammate Nazir Muhammad in the offseason on the pick and pop, understanding he'd be in a lot of pick and rolls with Kevin Garnett. And I'll tell you, he's not a traditional point guard. You wouldn't think of him as a great setup guy, Rajon Rondo, but excellent on ball defensively. Terrific rebounder from the lead guard position. Just great steals, anticipation, and there's a mature pulse to what Rajon Rondo does.
Solomon Jones, second-year player out of South Florida, checks in for the first time tonight for the Hawks. At the line of Marvin Williams, the second overall pick in the draft, came out of North Carolina 3 years ago, only stayed 1 year in Carolina, won a national championship. This is the same draft, of course, that produced Marvin Williams and Chris Paul 3 and 4. The Hawks never really found their point guard. Had Tyronn Lue, had Anthony Johnson, and they were among the players traded away in the Mike Bibby deal this season.
It's a question Marvin Williams will have to answer for the rest of his career.
Jones called for the foul. Wow. Now, admittedly, they're biased here in Atlanta, but they thought that was clean.
Well, again, we get the benefit of a second look here. Wow. And they're seeing the same replay we are. Body contact from behind, it looks like, and it'd probably be a pretty good call.
Jones picks up the foul. Kendrick Perkins to the line for Boston has taken the cotton gauze, it looks like, out of his nose after suffering a bloody nose back early in the first quarter. And remember, Doc Rivers, he's a coach now, was a point guard then, and all coaches who were point guards take particular interest in their current point guards, and it's a constant tutorial for him with Rajon Rondo.
It's been a great tutorial. You look at Rajon Rondo's progression from the start of this year, his decision-making process so much better than it was early.
A spirited first half here in Atlanta. Rondo again with that reach, and that great D forces the turnover. And Allen will force it in at the other end to tie the game. Now Garnett called for the foul, but let's go back to the D by Rondo.
Ask Doc Rivers how important his ability to pressure the basketball is. He says it's huge. It triggers everything we do on the defensive end. They list him at 6'1". He's got incredibly long arms and great hands, and it triggers this. Boy, you don't think of Ray Allen doing that kind of move.
Doc Rivers talks about his hands, how huge they are for a guy his size. He can just reach down, pick up a basketball like it's a softball, and he gets his hands in the passing lanes all night long. Quick feet, too. And a guy who Doc Rivers says his basketball IQ is off the charts.
I'll tell you this, Dan, and everybody talks about Rondo and the pressure. Doc said the questions won't go away unless we play for an NBA championship. But Rajon played at Oak Hill Academy and then Kentucky. Both programs probably as scrutinized as any at that particular level. So good preparation for him coming here.
Bibby, another miss. Now 2 out of 6 from the line. Allen can't shed Childress. Now steps back behind the line. Misses the 3. Bibby steps into a 3. Got it.
Looking more and more like the Mike Bibby of old. He had struggled, just 27% shooting in the first 2 games.
5 points, 6 assists, and 1 turnover tonight for Mike Bibby. Atlanta by 4. And a push on Atlanta. Going to be on Solomon Jones, his second. And penalty situation. First 2 games, just 2 assists total for Mike Bibby. 6 already here tonight.
Well, remember, Mike Bibby at one time tutored Rajon Rondo.
Bibby's cousin was Rondo's coach back in Louisville when Rondo was in high school. And about 7 years ago, he said to Mike, you know, this kid's pretty good. Why don't you have a look at him? And Mike Bibby worked out Rajon Rondo, gave him some tips, maybe gave him too many.
Said I just tried to help him, played a little one-on-one, had him work on his jump shot. Yeah, you can regrettable decisions as you get older.
Garnett having a big night offensively, looking for his 17th point. Now they need all the points they could get for the big 3 here tonight. They are all in double figures already, and we're still here in the first half. Bibby off the screen. Rondo slips. Jones with a great move, but left it short. It will be Atlanta ball.
Boston did a much better job getting back in transition in the latter stages of the second period. And every time Doc Rivers' team has got to execute, they're contesting shots. Nothing coming easy for the Atlanta Hawks in the last few minutes.
Final minute now with the first half. And Bibby into traffic. Rondo comes up with another steal. Long bounce pass ahead to Ray Allen.
That's the Celtic defense you can expect. Again, another tough shot turns into transition points.
13 points all in the second quarter for Ray Allen. Childress handling now. Smith is wide open. Short on the 3. Bibby had it and lost it. Garnett ahead of the pack. What a pass by Ray Allen.
Not doing to the Atlanta Hawks what the Hawks did early, getting out and running in transition.
Bibby squinting a little bit. It might have gotten poked in the eye, checking to see if his nose is bleeding as well as we go inside the final 10 seconds of the half. And laying it in on the inside is Marvin Williams to tie it. And that's all in the first half. Atlanta led most of the way. Boston came back. One final bucket at the end by the Hawks.